CalazCon is a show about war, obsession, colonialist occupation, and the many forms of violence those inflict. See the description for content warnings specific to this episode.
Hello and welcome to CalazCon. I am your GM, Elspeth, and today I am joined by Philo.
Hey gamers, it's Philo T. Hazard here. I use the they and the them pronouns in this show probably. You can find me everywhere at Philo Hazard. I've been doing that art fight thing that all the kids are doing. That'll have been like a year ago by the time this comes out, so check that out. Hot dang. I use the they and them pronouns. I'm on Admiralty Blues as well. It's another Beam Saber podcast. If you like this, you might like that as well. And I use they and them pronouns.
And Don?
Hi, I'm Don. I use he and him pronouns. Do not find me.
Just Don.
Fair. And Matt?
Hi, it's me, Matt. I use he, him pronouns. You can find me at Admiralty Blues on various places on the internet as well, along with Philo. And yeah, hope you've enjoyed the show.
And finally, Sabriel.
Hi, Sabriel, she, her, Internet Minotaur. You can find me, but I won't tell you where.
Ooh, spooky.
We'd also like to thank, for one final time, our squad sponsor, Lily Young. If you'd like to support this show, you can find our Patreon at patreon.com/CalazCon.
Can you imagine if we ended this episode being like, and look out for CalazCon 2 with 72 players. Hot damn.
Don't say this. Don't speak it.
No.
Why?
You might speak
I'm
it into
manifesting.
being.
I'm holding my arms aloft like I'm doing the spirit bomb.
Run it again, but this time we play the Evangelions.
Neon Genesis Evangelion.
I'm mad because that's kind of funny.
I think it's funny.
Yeah, but it's not good that it's funny.
Oh, no, yeah, 100%.
So, here we are.
We won CalazCon.
We did it. We beat that
We
horrible
won the
creature
cosplay
that
contest.
lived in the convention center. We slayed the dragon.
No political compromises were made.
No political commentary occurred.
None. God, we would never.
We wouldn't.
Listener, that's my
no.
promise to you.
So, yeah, how do we want to start this?
Well, I feel like maybe we should establish what each pilot's drive is for the audience.
Yes, thank you. Recapping that would be very helpful. Yeah, let's get a rundown of those again.
Shall I go first?
Please.
Yep. So, as a reminder, Ipso's drive is to prove that the early birds were never a long-term threat to the DFS. And that, I believe, would be a free clock expenditure.
I think it's 4, actually.
Was
it?
I've had it. It's marked as 3 clocks.
Oh,
on the
okay.
list I have.
My
I think it's
It makes
considered
sense. It affects a squad.
squad size because the early birds are a squad. It's about them.
Alright. How about Philo? how's True's drive doing?
I was waiting for you to describe your drive as a DM, Elspeth. I was very confused. I'm paying attention. True's drive is to free Michael, because she feels she abandoned him in the past, And, she wants to atone for that. Meanwhile, Longreach, as I'm the wielder and have a sentient weapon, Longreach also has a drive, and Longreach's drive is to ensure that they are the last of their kind.
And how many clocks for those?
Oh, that's a great question. Free Michael is a 2-clock drive, and Ensure I Am the Last of My Kind is a 4-clock drive, I believe. It's a major one because essentially we sort of narrowed that down to whether AI core-based weapons get made anymore or not. And that's a big ask.
That's the 4-1. I'd gotten confused. Okay.
That's the 411, son. Matt, what's your drive?
Well, Mike's drive is to become the designated ace poster boy of the DFS. That is a 2-drive clock drive to complete.
And finally, Julius.
My drive is ensure terminal company doesn't suffer the same fate as my old comrades. That is a 3-clock drive. To remind the listener, my comrades fucking died. So.
Yeah, that feels pretty relatively pivotal.
Yeah. Reasonably.
That is a load-bearing drive.
Yeah, I think so.
And how many drive clocks is it we have total between the squad?
I've got 1.
4?
I think
We've got 4 total. Mike has 1, Ipse has 1, True and Longreach have 1, and Julius has 1.
Well, no, True has 1 and Longreach has 0, right?
But this is true.
We very much didn't lead into Longreach's drive clock as we've been going through these episodes. I think we haven't created.
I did to an extent, but I wasn't putting work. It was like character work more than it was work. I think.
Well, in terms of Longreach, no more of my kind can be created, but we did explicitly create one of that kind during the missions.
Look, if Longreach had the guts to just shoot Sir in the face, then I think I would have ticked for drive clock.
I think it would have been bad if we'd shot Sir in the face, because I love Sir, and I would turn against you for him.
That's a good point.
It would have ticked for drive clock. That's what I'm saying.
Hey, I have a question. What is up with this podcast and people having gendered nouns for names and using a different pronoun that might be implied by that gendered noun? I'd like to know.
That's a tricky question. That's an approach. Yeah. I'm going to have to hike that one.
Is there another example I forgot?
Empress Gold and Sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Names are fun. Get jazzy with it.
It's just keeping us on our toes, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
I go everywhere on my toes. I'm like a velociraptor. Where do we actually talk about where we're burning our clocks? Do we do it as part of the epilogue part, or do we do it as part of the now part?
I think we just find it when there's a good chance for it. Yeah.
I believe step 1 is we get some closure on each pilot's beliefs. Each pilot asks questions as though you'd completed your connection plot with each other pilot. And I feel like we should do that first, and we can maybe wrap those answers into sort of like scenes of the fight for Logale winding down, potentially, if some ideas for that strike us.
I mean, does the fight for Low, what's the timescale on that? Because that could be like a 5-year thing, right? That
it
gets
could
finalized.
Be, yeah. Maybe not winding down so much as like the aftermath of the most recent battle, at the very least. Yeah.
We solved our soft goal. We got access to the spaceport.
Yeah, true.
We contributed to the, ceasefire with the Evangelians. What else do you need?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we could start with those beliefs, if that sounds good to everyone.
Cool.
Yeah.
Can I just clarify? So are we going to ask about one belief per other pilot?
Correct.
Yes.
So we're going to pick from ones we have. Cool. Okay.
You do a belief, I do a belief, Matt does a belief, Sabriel does a belief, and then we go around again.
Cool. Oh, yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah. Okay. Who wants to kick us off?
I would like to start by asking Julius a question about a belief. The first belief I had written down for Julius is, Julius is proof that we are fighting the good fight. He should be protected. I think I want to know, after all of the things that have happened, if Julius is fighting for the DFS or if Julius is fighting for himself.
None of the above.
Okay, none of the above?
Yeah, none of the above. It's mostly y'all and Board Squadron.
Okay, right.
Yeah, no. Julius has not really been given sufficient to believe in regards to the DFS, and I don't know if you met this old man, but he doesn't care about himself even a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He super doesn't.
No.
He hangs out with Mike all the time, which immediately, that's a red flag.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I think True is taking boxes from her room and stashing them in the back of the truck. The truck has a lot of bag space, and she's maybe shepherded some of Board Squadron into helping her. But I think, she's helping herself to a little sip from a water flask. And I think she looks over at Julius and sort of thinks to herself, when Julius's past is involved, can Julius be relied upon? Can I rely upon him if he's also grappling with the questions and the mistakes of his past constantly?
None of the above?
Julius, none of the above, Babbitt.
Yes. You can rely on Julius in cases when it oh, God damn it. I was about to say, hey, you can rely on Julius when it comes to Terminal Company. But if Julius got put in a situation where he gets to take some sort of revenge on the Evangelion Empire, I don't know. He's kind of unreliable. He's doing his best, but he's kind of unreliable.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Sorry.
I think it's just... No, I think that's interesting. I think it's just momentary pause. True's eyes just focused on Julius for a second, and then she just pops the water flask shut and keeps working.
Oh. Great.
Should we do it like this? Should we have, everyone ask a Julius question and then everyone ask a my question and so on? Is that kind of interesting?
Everyone gang up on
Yeah, I think
Julius.
we should gang up on you specifically. Stop, he's already dead!
Yeah, no, fuck me up.
The two beliefs I had about Julius are turncoats can't be trusted, I'm watching you, and Julius is here to usurp me. So these are ones that are from quite early in their relationship, right? So I think I'm interested in asking a question about turncoats can't be trusted, I'm watching you. Because I do trust Julius. We've got this... We have forged this bond between the two of us. We've overcome our differences. But I guess my question regarding that is not so much about can you be trusted to not betray the DFS. I don't need to watch you to avoid that. But can Mike trust Julius not to basically completely self-sacrifice out of his sense of loyalty or whatever is going on at the moment? Do I have to watch you in case of, you're only going to listen to what Mike says, you're no longer paying attention to your own desires, you know what I mean?
I need you all to be nice to me, actually. I need everyone to stop being mean to me. No? He's doing better. He's not trying to die as much. But, on some level, Julius is in his 60s, I think we established, or late 50s. And he thinks about the end of his life a lot. And he thinks the best way he could go out is dying for Mike.
So absolutely Mike can't trust you to not do this thing.
He's trying to be better. Listen, if you give him another couple of years of, not dying and, getting to spend time with people who he cares about and who, actively want him around and want him not to be dead, then yeah, you could trust him then. Right now, he literally, it was a mission and a downtime ago that he decided he wasn't just gonna go out and get himself killed.
Makes sense.
Sorry.
No, it's not. This is the thing, right?
God, I made the worst man.
You invented him.
I did.
Also, it's now your turn.
So I want to save my Mike belief to last, and my Ipse belief is complicated. Should I maybe just do true now, and then we can do true, and then we'll move on?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, do it.
My belief about true, which I made at the very beginning of the game because I never had an opportunity to cut loose with true because I was too busy getting fucking wrecked with Mike, just drunk every single fucking downtime, is true's desire to take responsibility for everyone will get them killed.
Yes.
Is that? Yeah? Yeah?
Yes. Of course it will.
Oh.
She recognizes that other beings are other beings, that everyone has a genuine lived experience, that everyone is free to make their own mistakes, and that she is not responsible for them. And yet she feels responsible for them, and that will get her killed.
Great.
Ask a depressing question.
Is this reflected in some sort of solidarity between them?
Oh, probably.
Right? Is there a moment of them, like, looking at the squad? Right?
They finally get the beat where... You know, there's the beat early on where Julius and Mike hang out on the fucking balcony and Mike is a blowhard and end up costing us some trust. They finally get the beat, which is just them leaning over the balcony instead.
Yeah, right. Watching them run drills. It is like a bad mirror of like a proud parent moment.
Yeah.
Because they're both just like, God, I would die for these people.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Don?
The reason they call it Terminal Company, folks. Say
Waka waka. Okay, what about for next season? It's 5 legislatures and 1 squad.
1 mercenary squad and a legislature for each faction. Trying to push them around.
That's so good! It's like a last man standing situation at that point.
Yeah, the voting districts just get like smaller and smaller towards a central point as the time goes on.
Oh god. Exponential decline.
I'll restate my belief about True, because I only have one. Her relationship with Longreach reminds me of my former life. I'm jealous. I want to know what True wants for Longreach as a life independent of True, so either after True is gone, dead, or in the future if you see yourself separating from Longreach. What would you want for Longreach?
Yeah, I think that's something she has been thinking about. She knows she's not immortal. She's been through a lot in the last sort of, few months. I think she can tell Longreach is becoming a bit more of their own person as well. I think Longreach at the beginning of the show versus Longreach at the end of the show are quite different people, and have also been through their own experiences and so on, right? I think it's important for Longreach to have relationships with other artificial beings, because that kind of it brings them into a part of their identity that they didn't really have a great deal of exposure to beforehand, because it was just them and True and Esme. But it's also, artificial beings are likely to last a lot longer than True is. Just from a lifespan perspective. I don't think True is some sort of... She's not a death seeker or anything. But she recognizes that her life is going to be shorter than Longreach is, unless something goes severely wrong. And, that's something that she'll do everything in her power to try and avoid. So, she wants her kid to have friends.
Nice.
Maybe that's like maintained connections. Maybe that's connections beyond just, the people who happen to be in the same city and so on, right? It's trying to set up those channels and stuff for them. Matt, I think you're up.
That is me. I am now up. And I think, so I've got 2 beliefs with True. I've got, I can't lose True again, I need to get her out. And I've got, True has my best interests at heart. And I think I'm interested in asking you a question about the second one of those. True has my best interests at heart. And I guess that question is, how much of True trying to get Mike to leave the DFS is because you have Mike's best interests at heart, and how much is just trying to remove the guilt that you feel yourself?
100%. It's all the latter. She cares for Michael, of course she does. She's always cared about Michael. And also, she's... she regretted it to an extent, but it was always... Yeah, but Mike got out as well. Mike's gone off and is doing something else, and I don't know, maybe he's tuning racing spacecraft somewhere, or some bullshit like that,
But instead he was trying to avenge your death.
And then she comes back to... Yeah, she comes back to Logel, or she comes to Logel, and he's not. He's still here. He's still stuck like this. And she feels maybe she's a different person, and maybe Mike being stuck here doing exactly the same thing as he always was means she isn't a different person either. So, it's guilt, it's self-sabotage, I think it is mostly looking back in the cart mirror, realizing that maybe... out of her own... It probably was a desire to protect Longreach, but through her own rash actions and through her maintenance of those, the fact that she never tried to check in or even look him up, really, in the intervening period. And it's a big galaxy, maybe she tried, but I get the feeling she probably didn't. And then it all comes crashing down, and she thinks, oh god, what did I do to him?
Fair enough.
Can't wait for someone to be listening to this on their commute. Like eating a Krispy Kreme or something, just having like a chill time.
Yeah.
Hey fella, how's the train treating you? Oh, it's busy today, isn't it? Gosh. Just kidding. This is the UK in the future where we don't have trains.
We didn't tell you this yet, but you're actually only allowed to listen to Time War Company on the train. The map rules.
Ooh, that's thematic.
It is.
Yeah.
Very
It's
much
like an
so.
onion listen situation. I
You're
like
following the
that.
rules up until this point.
Chew and indeed chew. Well done, chew believers.
Okay, is that all of them?
And that's all of them. Alright, well, no, it's your question again now, Sabro. But those are all the true questions.
Oh, I do someone else's. Okay.
Yes.
Well, here's listeners with keen memories will recall I do not have any beliefs about Ipse because I deliberately tanked them because we hate each other. Or
hate
we
me.
might hate each other less. Okay, yeah. In fiction, as a result of the last mission, does it make sense to do my last belief about Ipse that was crossed out?
I feel like if you can think of something that interests you with that, sure.
Yes.
If not, okay, I was going to say if not, then think of just like a free question. But yeah, go for it.
As the other
Right.
person here, I'll say, it's like, technically you have no beliefs about me right now, but this is too juicy to not have you ask a question, so...
Thank you. My belief about Ipse that I had before I stopped having a connection clock with Ipse is a worm. How about that? Are you still, like, a rat fucking asshole about, like, pressing people into service? Like, is Ipse still like that? Complimentary. As a
good
player,
question.
derogatory
Yeah,
as Julius.
Yeah, I think the answer there is from the way that Julius sees it, almost certainly yes. I think Ipse's way of seeing the world is one where sometimes it's okay to basically pressure people, to make people do things that they don't necessarily want to do because you think that there's a greater purpose here, that there are reasons that people need to be sacrificed. And that sucks, but they are a worm like that.
Jesus Christ. Is there a scene we can represent this with? Because last time we saw Ipse and Julius, they were, like, kind of okay with each other.
Yeah, I just want... Yeah, I don't know. I have so many thoughts on this, actually. I think to elaborate a little bit more, and then we'll maybe see a scene, or we could think of a scene that demonstrates it. That would be good. What would we be doing?
It would have to be work-related, because
Yeah,
I
of
don't think
course.
they hang out.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. Is it, like, Ipse signing an order of some kind? And Julius just sort of, like, seeing it and going, yep, that is still who they are.
I mean, I think this is something that we talked a little bit off mic about, but there could be an order I sign regarding Board Squadron to send them to go and do something very dangerous.
I'd like Julius to have a hand on the ball for that one, actually.
Okay,
because
sure.
I want to make him suffer.
That's also inconsistent because we've established that order would be something contrary to, like, DFS rules, which
that's
they would
actually
not
true.
do.
I would probably not want to do that.
Yeah.
Is it... We've learned from other epilogue sessions that in the future, Logel is going to be the base of a faction of the DFS that does not engage in wars of aggression. Is this order that Ipse signs off on something to do with taking that to a logical but cruel extreme? Is it like staying neutral and letting people come to harm as a result?
I also wonder, I don't know, just to suggest my alternative, I'm thinking about in the sort of immediate aftermath of the Goliath stuff, trying to... It doesn't have to be, like, direct orders, but, like, Ipse pitching in a little bit with the bureaucracy of, like, who is still on active duty and things like that. I'm just thinking out loud at this point.
Is it about, like, just abandoning some, like, a group of people who are suffering because that would break, the truce, right?
Yeah.
Like, not engaging in wars of aggression means, not engaging in wars of liberation.
Yeah, I think that's probably it. I think that, okay, I like this. So it's probably a decent amount of time later, actually. Maybe a year or two, something like that. When this kind of schism is quite well established and the stages are set.
I think the schism isn't that time boxed for the 5-year point.
Is that time boxed for 5 years, or is that time boxed for immediately after?
I feel like it's within 5, not literally in 5.
It actually says within 20 minutes on this piece of paper I'm looking at. The Goliath goes down and immediately the entire galaxy skims. It's totally unrelated.
Oh yeah, no, during a 5-year time skip. Okay, right.
I mean, there's nothing to say that these belief checks can't be within that time period.
Yeah. I honestly, I think that maybe we shouldn't do this right now, and when we talk about Board Squadron stuff, this might come in.
Yeah, I like that.
As a group, right?
I like that.
I think let's leave that open for maybe coming up when we talk about Board Squadron, because I think that's the most compelling way to demonstrate it to me, but we'll see how that plays out when we get to that point.
Oh, yeah, okay, no, I got ideas.
Yeah. I guess I did want to add another comment to my answer, hopefully not overcomplicating it too much, but I think there is an element to Ipse where they were programmed as an artificial to be a bodyguard and to sort of lack a sense of self-preservation, and there's a little bit of not understanding other people's drive for self-preservation always there as well.
Or not understanding people's strive to not self-preserve in the case of more than half of your coworkers.
Yep. Yeah, you know. It's complicated.
Yeah.
So True has a belief about Ipse, which is that Ipse deserves space to be their own person. They're an individual, I can see they care. If you were given that space away from all this, do you think you'd be any different? When the cleaning up is going on, True just, borrows a jeep or something from the compound. She doesn't even bother taking the truck. Longreach does come. They're in the back of the jeep. Just this enormous sniper rifle. And she takes Ipse and just sits by the sea or by a lake or something and just takes an afternoon. What does Ipse do?
I think Ipse kind of hates it at first, is the answer. But when sort of they eventually kind of accept, no, we are actually stepping away for a moment. In that situation, I think whatever True and Longreach are doing, Ipse kind of sits nearby and pulls out sort of a digital book and actually reads. And just takes time to himself for that. I think something quiet. Something that if True asks about, it becomes familiar, but Ipse is actually very familiar with whatever they're reading already, but it's the act of just sitting and doing it that's actually enjoyable to them.
I think True is the kind of person who sits and reads at the beach.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that parallel. But she's also the kind of person who, we've seen in previous missions, is terrible at consuming media, which means she was the worst person to deploy on this mission. So it is, the beat is long-reach SAT. Long-reach can't move by themselves of their own locomotion, really, right? But they can look around and stuff. Hanging out on, like, a big picnic blanket. True is lying on her back. You can just see her cat ears above the book that she is midway through reading, which I think is probably one of the, it's one of the various CalazCon media properties, but there's a prominent, like, burn mark over one corner or something like that. Physical book, no data pad.
Is your tail doing stuff as you're reading exciting passages and stuff?
No, I'm asleep.
Oh.
It's shading my eyes. I read 30 pages and passed out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably doing the like lazy cat wiggle. Like trailing back and forth in the sand. Making a little sand angel. But I think that taught me something about Ipsy. Cool. Matt, it's your turn.
It is. It's Matt. So I've got...
Your turn,
It's
Matt.
me. It's me, Matt. So I've got two drives regarding Ipsy. I've got... The initial one is, it's naive to think you can change the war. And I've got, I can trust Ipsy regarding Sir. I think I'm interested in asking a question about that second one. Specifically, if push comes to shove and Sir wants to do something for its own reasons that's counter to what Ipsy would necessarily do, how accepting would Ipsy be about that?
I think Ipsy has sort of accepted that Sir deserves to make its own decisions about these things at this point, and probably just lets it by at this point. If that happens, then I think after everything that happened at the end of our missions, Ipsy's kind of done with that fight, as far as they're concerned. It's a little bit just accepting that, they were convinced in a way, but also just that there are other things to worry about, and that this is one that's okay to stop fighting.
I don't know if that's an actual real conversation we have, or if it's just kind of a more meta question, but regardless, Mike is very relieved by this being the case.
Wow, character growth? On this podcast?
Maybe a little bit. Maybe a tiny bit.
Crazy. So are we all taking turns making fun of Mike now? Are we all going to be mean to Mike?
I think that's the plan.
It's make fun of Mike time.
It's time.
Or also known as every other episode of the podcast, constantly.
Should I start, or should I do the opposite of that thing?
If you've got a question that you think is a good ending point, I think that would be fine to end with that. Does that make sense?
I kind of feel like mine is a good starting point, although I don't know how everyone... I think we should end with True, actually.
Okay.
I think it would be interesting to
Why?
start with Julius. So, my belief about Mike is a screenshot from Ping Pong the Animation. It is the character Makoto Tsukimoto, also known as Smile, and he is staring into the distance, and he is saying, "The hero appears, the hero appears, the hero appears." So, that's probably fine. Is that true?
So, from the perspective of Mechanist Sergeant Michael Carmichael, that's absolutely true. Whether or not that is true in the opinion of the universe, we will see as we go through this epilogue. I'm sure we will see that very much. We'll see very much if that ends up being accurate enough. But certainly, especially since I don't know if we got it on Mike, but the scar that Mike took at the end of the mission, I've gone for reckless. I think that makes sense given what was going down in that mission, and I think represents the fact that having pulled off almost the impossible with the Goliath and what went down with the Serpent's Fangs, Mike is completely convinced that he can beat the odds. He truly believes that he can.
And so does Julius. Just like unreservedly.
And we will see if that is true in terms of the universe as we do the rest of the epilogue. But as far as Mike is concerned, yes, he thinks he can do it. Not just thinks, believes in his heart and his guts.
Great. That's good. That's good. That's good and uncomplicated. It's good that there's a protagonist of reality
Yep.
And then we all believe in him.
We all believe in it.
We all believe in him, and the reality of the situation is absolutely not going to come in and maybe counteract this belief as we go into the future.
It's fine.
But I think
believe in the Mike who believes in you.
In the aftermath of like the Goliath coming down, or Mike passed. No, he was sleeping right at the end. He's just got this big smile on his face. He thinks it's all going to be all right. He's going to be made an ace. This has got to be it.
I mean, yeah, obviously.
He's going to take everyone with him. We're going to form a special squad, and we're going to be off the front line, and he's going to have saved everyone.
Yeah.
He can do it. He's done it.
Yeah. Obviously.
Yeah. Obviously. How else could it go?
Let's stay nice and uncomplicated. I have Michael sees me fully as a person and a machine as a belief. The question I want to ask about that is, I want more detail about how Michael sees me. Like, what kind of person, what kind of machine? How do you see our relationship?
Oh, it's like that, is it?
It's like that, yeah.
Yeah, that is a really excellent question. I probably should have seen that one coming. So, definitely when that first scene that we had, well, not the first scene, but the scene where it was Mike and Ipse and Mike doing the refueling, like, I think Mike definitely felt a spark, pun not intended, or maybe pun intended, I'm not sure, there, in a way that he didn't expect, which I think mirrors the way I felt in that scene when we were recording it, honestly, in terms of the way that was going. I think that, and I guess we're going to maybe touch on this as some of the epilogues, but yeah, Mike definitely does, and as time has gone on, and as especially with the situation with Sir, he very inexpertly brought up the fact that he sort of, in the back of his mind, sees Sir as, in some ways, metaphorically, being a child of both him and Ipse. Which Ipse, I think, did not necessarily agree with.
Yeah, definitely not, but
I think something like flipped in Mike's Mike brain. Where even though I don't think that is necessarily the real truth, like, you know, Mike doesn't have any kids. He's been in the army for a long time. He definitely feels like paternal protection towards Sir. I think that's definitely true. To some degree, took them out to watch a ball game, all of this kind of business. The more he thinks about it, I think he definitely does have romantic feelings towards Ipse. I don't know what this would end up meaning, because I think relationships between, a human and a robot are going to be fundamentally different. This is like a future relationship, right? Like,
that's.
But
we don't need to talk about where that goes right now. I want to know how Mike feels at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think there will be a point at some point where, I don't think this necessarily happens to Mike very often. I know there's also there could be some, because there's a very interesting relationship between the playbooks that we've chosen here. We've got the tuner and the artificial. In that first scene, there was definitely a hesitancy to Mike when in that situation, because I think he is very, very careful he deliberately tries to catch himself on this, to not just look at Ipse as a cool piece of tech. I think there might have been a point in Mike's life when he was younger when he might have spoken to a robot in that way and immensely regrets not seeing them properly as a person, because otherwise with Mike as well, in terms of how he deals with technology. I don't want to put any pins and labels on it as well, but you don't have to look too far to think about the way that I don't want to pathologize or put an absolute pin in anything, but it's not a million miles away to see the way Mike looks at technology in racing. He's got the gearhead. He can see what goes into a machine, or what parts more or less on site. This is an interest that is special to him. You don't have to look too far to maybe see something like that. And he's very cautious of deliberately not wanting to hurt Ipse by only looking at them in that way, because he doesn't. They have worked together on Sir. They have fought together. He has bonds with the people that he fights with, especially. Well, he does now. There was a period where he was deliberately keeping himself away from people after he thought he lost True, and that all came crashing back in when he found out that that wasn't the case. So, yeah. So I went around the houses a little bit on that one. Does that pretty much cover everything that you would be that you were looking for there?
I'm satisfied with that answer. Yeah,
that was very fun because it almost sounded in character. Right, like you can imagine, like Mike, stumbling over his words, like, well, I don't want to, it's good.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Like Mike is bad at this. Mike is good at a lot of things. He is bad at this.
Yeah, imagine.
True wingmanning. Terrible speech. Why do you keep doing this to yourself? You know it's a lot when I'm a cat girl and all, but that was dog shit.
All right. Speaking of True...
Oh, it's me next. I was like, I wonder whose question it is. They're taking a long time on. Oh, it's me. So it's the night before True leaves. And they're sat, swinging their legs on top of the truck, on top of one of the cargo containers. True's got someone else watching Longreach. Maybe it's Dr. Martin Perfect. I think that's a fun combination. And they're drinking some sort of... Oh, I know. They've taken some beers from the new... what's it called? Not Stone and Roses shit.
It was, wasn't it?
The Loyal Bar. It's not called the Stone and Roses, though, is it? That's a band.
It's almost
a band. It's almost a band.
Stone Roses is a band.
Was it Smoke and Roses?
Yes.
Maybe. All we know is roses were involved. So they've got a six-pack or something. And True looks at him and goes, I can't make you leave, can I?
And Mike takes a deep sigh. And where are we sitting at this point? Are we sitting in a place where we can kind of look over where, like, Terminal Company perhaps are, right?
It's like evening time. It's parked up, in the hangar. So maybe while the company are like around, you can probably hear, the burble of conversation in the background. All the mechs are around, but quiet for the most part.
Oh, Smoke and Roses it was, yeah. And he's looking around, and he's quiet for a very long time. And I think he starts trying to say something a couple of times. And then, in the end, he just goes, True, I'm so sorry, but no, I don't think you can.
Slow nod. She's trying to keep her face straight, but her ears have drooped.
No!
Yeah.
Listen, I've got a plan, all right? Like, this one's gonna work.
You always have a plan.
I know, and sometimes they do work. Like, hey, I had a plan about Goliath, and we got that done. All of it. All of it, True.
That was all your plan? Okay, Mike, what's your plan?
I've told you about this, right? If I make Ace, which we should, given what's gone down, we've got some sway. Get ourselves out of here, get everyone off the front line, get some gigs that are a little bit more flash than substance. Get us out of it. I can't really go back to Bastock. There's people there that want me, and not in a good way. And
the option was never for you to go back home, Mike.
I can't leave him, True. I can't leave him.
Yeah, I know.
Julius, I can't believe I'm saying this, but he needs me. He looks, I don't think Ipse is specifically around here, but there's a gap in a conversation where I don't think necessarily he's admitting this to True at this point. But, there's other people around that I don't want to leave, What would Spanners do without me?
She'd have a lot less grey hairs on her head.
And it wasn't when I thought you died.
I'm sorry, Mike.
Something in me broke. And
Yeah.
a big part of... I could turn around and say, "Oh, that's what kept me in. I was just doing it out of revenge." And don't get me wrong, I did a bunch of stuff where revenge is realistically the only explanation for why it went down the way that it did. Stuff I'm not particularly proud of. But I've got to be honest, when we had that meeting and I told you that I was leaving, I think I was lying. I think I always knew I wasn't going to...
Yeah.
It just feels like this is where I'm supposed to be, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I went a while without knowing you. But this place maybe seems good for you. Maybe these people do.
It feels... and I'm sorry. And, like, I think you do see a tear come out of his eyes. He's truly sorry that he has lied to you, because you were very, very close friends. You were bonded. You know, it was you'd fought in the same unit before stuff went down with Longreach. You know, it's a very similar situation, and you can probably pick up that Mike's not necessarily the best with words, as we've established. Not the best at speeches, and
I have no idea what you're talking about.
But you can kind of tell that. Even though it's happened over, like, well, this series has been going for a decent chunk of, like, in-world time, right? But, like,
yeah,
for Mike, this is feeling similar. Like, he's caught between two groups that he doesn't want to let down, right? Even if he's going to try and resolve that in his own curmudgeonly way to himself, that's basically the truth of it. And he was caught in between the two, and he's choosing to stay with Ipse and Julius and Birdie and Spanners and all the rest and Board Squadron. That's basically the call he made, unfortunately for true.
I'm so proud of you, you know. I think probably this is the right call. I still think you need a break.
Oh.
When there's time, you come see me, alright?
Yeah. We're sure to get some leave at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, listen, with how well we're doing, I'm sure that fishy guy can sort something out. I'm coming around on him.
Kid. He seems sweet, I guess. You know where to find me, yeah?
Yeah.
This time. Really weak smile. She has to, like, almost push up into, like, on her knees, but she gives him a smooch on the forehead.
Mike receives the smooch, and I think does just start... Like, we're away from people at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he does start crying. Like, this is the worst conversation he was hoping to have. Like, I think there's a part of Mike that hopes this was somehow going to resolve itself by itself and he wouldn't have to have this conversation. Even though there's literally zero chance of that actually happening. But now it actually is happening with him, and he's just like... Yeah, it's not the best.
True does the traditional, like, dad style, "Oh, not on my good t-shirt."
Mm-hmm.
And then she puts her arms around him and just holds him against her chest for a while.
Okay, I think that's scene.
Yep. Cool vibes. Just chill vibes on the whole end of the line.
Yeah, sure we didn't decide to do tragedy? Jesus Christ.
Ugh.
It's more tragic if we all live.
Exactly. You know... What are we doing next? You want to watch some cartoons?
I think we got to spend drive clocks.
Oh, damn.
And we should go through, like... Because obviously we're going to pick some drive clocks that we do and some drive clocks that we don't. So we should go into what it means to not get that drive as well. Or that might come up in some of the later sections as well.
I mean, the way this is meant to go down in theory is that each player says, like, what happens to their pilot after the final mission. I don't know whether we want to do that and discuss, like, spending drive clocks when it comes up organically, if we want to have an idea of where those are going in advance.
I think we should get it out of the way, because we've talked about it a lot, and it's, like, critical to this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tear off the Band-Aid. So we've got 4 drive clocks. 4 of the Queen's drive clocks. we've got 5 drives, which are Mike becoming a designated ace poster boy, which is 2 drive clocks. We've got proving the early blurs were never a long-term threat, which is 3 drive clocks. We've got free Michael, which is 2 drive clocks. I don't think that one's getting fulfilled. We've got ensure I'm the last of my kind, which is 4 drive clocks from long reach. And we've got ensure terminal company doesn't suffer the fate of my old comrades.
And these are also kind of
We've
like...
got 4 drive clocks to spend.
These are also kind of like decision points. So if we don't fulfill these drives, bad stuff can happen.
Yeah.
Like the opposite will happen, which is sort of critical to this decision in a lot of ways.
If we don't pay off become designated ace poster boy, Mike never becomes famous as an ace.
So we did talk about this a lot off of Mike. We
talked about it a lot.
We talked about it a lot, and even though some of the other options were extremely interesting and juicy, we did decide to do the one where everyone doesn't die.
Yeah. So we are choosing to spend 3 of the drive clocks to fulfill Julius's drive, because if we did not, at some point over the next period that we're discussing in the epilogue, Terminal Company would be wiped out.
Anyone still in Terminal Company?
Yep.
Rip.
This, of course, means that, Mike does not get out. Mike does not become a designated ace. The early birds are still considered the primary cause. I guess, how would that go for Ipse's drive?
I mean, they're just still a long-term threat, aren't they? Even if CalazCon is over, the early birds are still around.
It's more about the way it's recorded in history than anything else. Even when this conflict is over, it was about the views of the DFS, about how this went down.
Yeah, this is about the politician who used to bodyguard. Still gets written right in the history books as the guy who, massively fumbled the early birds' foot and just brushed them off.
Yeah.
So I think this can get folded in with some of the stuff that is going to be happening later in the legislature, in that we are just cashing all of this in to not be in harm's way so often. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Terminal Company are... I mean, we're not running missions, because I don't think anyone would be happy if we weren't out there fighting. But, we're not getting sent on suicide missions. We're getting the intel we need on shit. People care about our input. We get to choose what we're doing.
Yeah.
I like that.
Or if we do go on, against the odds missions, we, against the odds, pull it off, much like we did with Goliath.
Yeah, we are kind of
the
fucking
information... Cool. The info I've heard is that some of the other squads maybe didn't get out of the Goliath mission so lightly as we did. So
I was trying to die
to those
so
guys.
hard.
I wasn't.
And I think you came closer than me.
Got the epilogue for that.
I wanted level 3 harms
All
so
shakes out in
bad.
the wash. So that's 3 drive clocks spent. That's 1 drive clock left just on the table. It's just there. It's shiny.
Well, I think in terms of... because each of us has to spend the drive clocks, it probably makes sense for the 3 that are staying in Terminal Company to be the ones that spend the drive clocks, right? So, True, you would still have one for whatever true purposes you might have.
I think that's accurate, right? Because it is, folks stay and folks don't. And True leaves. Not immediately once the spaceport's open, but I think she heads out.
Thanks for listening to CalazCon. This episode was edited and sound balanced by Christine Blight. You can reach her for voice acting at cvblight@gmail.com. The show's music is by Devin Nelson. You can find them on all social media at Devin Decibel. If you'd like to support CalazCon, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/CalazCon. Please tell your friends about the show too. Remember, all glory to Calazar.